Alright, so I think I'm connected here. So this is the run I did of my first time through the Elite Four, which is actually my second time through the Elite Four, because I did this run without recording it with a safety net just in case it wasn't possible of having the other 5 Pokemon in my party. And once I got to the point where it said, "Congratulations, you're the champion," I shut off the game and reverted my save to right before I ran the whole dang gauntlet. And for this run, to prove that I was able to complete it with just a single Vulpix, I went ahead and removed everybody else from the party. I had my wife watching this, and she was suggesting, well, can't you just remove the party from the party? No, you have to go to the box, and you have to sift through the giant pile of everything you've got, which, as you can see, I have sorted by number, and all my Vulpix are there. One of the first things I did when I got the game is, before I even got the Thunder Badge, I went through and tried to do some shiny hunting for Vulpix. I found that after I got my combo high enough, I was earning enough quick candy per catch that I was able to continue funding getting more Pokeballs to continue catching, even without a large supply of money to begin. Here's the Vulpix that I'm actually using. I had gotten enough Vulpix candy that this thing is fully stacked, maxed out, and I forgot to go over to the appraisal, but this was one of the Vulpix that I caught during my attempt at trying to find a shiny, and it is a 100% IV. So, with the candies, it's CP 5006, so, I mean, even though it's only level 37, CP 5000 is pretty solid for going and slamming yourself into the Elite Four head first. As you could see, the moveset, Vulpix is full of determination. The moveset, I gave him Flamethrower because, you know, staple 100% accurate fire attack. Dig because, 1, it gets him out of the way of things, and 2, it's a ground move. Even though he's more of a special attacker than a physical attacker, having that ability to hit with ground type is nice. I guess I never really did check if Earthquake was doable, but I'm pretty sure it's not on a Vulpix. Probably be a completely different run if it was. Dark Pulse, both for handling psychics and ghosts, and the potential flinch that it can cause was another great piece to that. I noticed that for some reason Eevee was in a good mood and went ahead and buffed me for Lorelei, and I just went ahead and decided to take advantage of that. Probably could have played with Eevee in between and gotten that buff on each fight, but I figured, that's a good start. As you can see, a super effective waterfall on a Vulpix should wipe it out, but with all of the candy buffing the EVs on this Vulpix, not even close, just out. Like, doesn't matter. Unless I get a critical hit, which only does a little bit more, I was able to go through this pretty well. And I was really nervous about this, and so I started with Dark Pulse, because I apparently hate stab. And for some reason, I continued to hate stab for this Dugong. I continued to Dark Pulse it until the very end, tail end, and then hit it with a Flamethrower because I was burning through my Dark Pulses. This one probably would have gone a lot better had I just hit it with the Flamethrowers in the first place. But I didn't, so this is what it is. There's a lot of times throughout this that I probably could have been favoring Flamethrower in a chance of a burn rather than a flinch. But the way I played this through, just decided to go this route with it. Confuse Ray was actually a waste of a turn here, because Cloyster tends to be particularly weak in defensive stats in general. So he was confused, I didn't take a hit, but then Flamethrower's like, hey, sup? Okay, thanks, bye. And of course Vulpix levels up a little bit throughout this, because, you know, he's only level 37 to start. I think he ends at level 41 or 42, just short of 42 maybe? Lapras. Fun fact, Lapras has Hydro Pump. What's really nice about Lapras is when you can get him to flinch, like that. Because Hydro Pump hurts. And some of these Elite Four got really freaking lucky with the RNG. Which, nah, they didn't get lucky, I got unlucky. Whenever I play D&D, we always joke that I just roll ones. I rolled a lot of ones on this fight. To be fair, Hydro Pump is a big attack, and it's a level 52 hitting a level 38, and yet I'm not just dead. And another Hydro Pump. Now I will say that there are times in which I will use full restores in battle. I tried my best not to, keep it limited as much as possible. And my goal was to try to beat each Elite Four member without using a full restore in battle. But there were points where I just knew that it's coming too close and it's not worth playing that. Flinch, flinch, yeah! Got through the slow bro with nothing. And so now I had a choice, because I think Jinx is next, yeah. So Ice Psychic, I could Dark Pulse or Flamethrower, but you gotta have that stab. Gotta have that stab. The hard part of Lorelei is getting through her first 3 water-ice types that are going to Waterfall and Hydro Pump you as hard as they can. But yeah, getting through Dugong, Cloyster, and Lapras made that difficult. Alright, so we've re-upped with ethers and potions, and we are good to go fresh for Bruno. And Bruno likes his ground, rock, and fighting, so there's a lot of digging happening here. And this is the flaw to using dig as your ground move, because I am a fire type. And I'm pretty sure that these guys know Earthquake. Always start with the Confuse Ray. Make it so they don't hit quite 100% of the time. Unfortunately, they still hit enough of the time that it hurts. And Earthquake, because if you were a computer player that's supposed to be good, and you had Earthquake and you were facing a fire type, wouldn't you? And I'm sure most people watching this know already, but Dig will get you out of the way of most attacks. But Earthquake it would logically make sense that, you know, you're in the ground and the ground is shaking, you're still going to get hit. Earthquake will still hit you while you're underground during a dig. And it is unpleasant. Because normally using dig or fly or bounce or one of those moves that gets you, you know, off the screen just means one turn you're not taking damage. But this is one scenario where that just isn't the case. So using dig because it's super effective ground on rock with Onyx meant I took an extra earthquake to the face because it took me 2 rounds to do my hit. Send out Machamp. It'll be fine as long as Machamp doesn't, you know, no earthquake or anything. Throw the Confuse Ray on him for good measure. I'm sure my luck couldn't go so bad that, you know, he'd get through the confusion and use an earthquake or anything to that effect. Oh, yeah, no, he totally did exactly that. A pure fire type really isn't built to go the best against the Elite Four. But I could get half his health down with a flamethrower, which means I only have to take 1 more from him. And fortunately that didn't crit. Vulpix is in a pinch and might cry. Then I had the choice. Do I restore him now? Or wait until after I kill the Machamp? So I went ahead and chose now. Rather than going into the unknown, because I don't remember what he was going to throw at me next, I went ahead and did it now. He was confused, took a hit. I basically got a freebie out of that. So I guess that wasn't rolling a 1. It was very fortunate for me. Going into the next fight, fully restored, and leveled up. Because why not level up? Poliwrath. Yeah, this is a bunch of garbage. Water fighting. And I have fire, not effective. Dark, not effective. Ground, which is, I don't remember, probably not effective because ground on water. And Confuse Ray. So what did I end up doing? Yeah, just going for the flinch. I'm gonna do little damage every time anyways. Might as well try to keep him from doing damage back. And confusion was on my side in this one, which is probably good because he's taking less damage than like everybody else. Oh, he snapped out of it. He starts beating me with waterfalls. Because I didn't get enough of those from Lorelei. Yeah, when I was a kid doing this on my Game Boy, back in the 90s, didn't know that Lorelei was actually pronounced Lorelei, and in my head, always did it as Lorelei. Whatever. Words you don't see, read somewhere, and you have to come up with your own pronunciation of. It's always good. It's always a good argument, especially in Pokemon, because everyone always argues over different ways things are done, and then they'll do it one way in the anime, and oh, that's the way it was meant to be said. Oh, Hitmonlee. I remember historically there being a lot of high jump kicks. I feel like they didn't quite go with just spamming high jump kicks. But I did a dig just in case, because high jump kick is a great way for Hitmonlee to just hurt himself. Oh, right, Rock Slide, because it's super effective. After I realized he wasn't going to be high jump kicking, I decided rather than taking extra turns to get through him, we'll just pound him down. And Hitmonchan, which... Hitmonchan has always been one to use all of the different elemental punches and whatnot. And since they're fire, ice, and lightning, there's not a water punch and not as much for me to be concerned about, so I think I just took this one head on. Prayed I didn't get paralyzed. He's going for the Thunder Punch. And Hitmonchan fainted. And that's how you beat a Bruno with a Vulpix. It took me one full restore in between, but there's that. So we do all our little Healy things, and move on to Agatha, who, by the way, I thoroughly enjoy in this game. Her sprite. Because when we get there, it's fantastic. If you haven't actually seen the Agatha sprite yet, it literally looks like Professor Oak in drag. It's so good. I was checking my PP there, make sure we're good to go. Oh, Professor, you're not fooling anyone. Oh, it's great. See, and then after you beat Lance, you know, Professor Oak shows up, and he says, "Sorry, I'm late." Well, yeah, that's because he was busy being Agatha for the previous fight. He had to get changed. Arbok. Now, here's an interesting scenario, because being paralyzed sucks. Arbok is poison, so I'm going to use a ground attack. So I did. What does Arbok do? Arbok used Glare. Arbok is trying to paralyze me. That is Arbok's whole goal, is to paralyze me. Didn't get through him, so what's he gonna do? He's gonna use Glare. And he paralyzed me. Now the rest of Agatha's team is poison. And they're gonna try to poison me. Even now. Trying to poison me. But I can't be poisoned because I'm paralyzed. And I decided I was going to fight the paralysis. Fight through the paralysis. And just go with it so that I wouldn't get poisoned. And then Vulpix gathered all of his energy and shook off paralysis. So my whole goal of just to take a couple extra hits, be paralyzed, and not be poisoned failed itself because Vulpix loves me. Thanks, Vulpix. There's a lot of sludge bombs coming my way. But Ghost type, dark, super effective, potential for flinch. And I think actually my first time through, I fought through the paralysis and didn't have to worry about getting poisoned, and it was good. This time, he shook off the paralysis, and then I didn't get poisoned. So I suppose there was some luck on that end as well. Oh hey look, I leveled up. Woo, level 40. 5292 CP. Wheezing. Huh? I can dig it. Which is the other thing that I thought was very weird with these brand new Let's Go games, is that they did not incorporate Pokemon abilities that they introduced in Gen 3. And because of that, Ghastly Hunter, Gengar, Coughing, Wheezing, all Magnemite, Magneton, all those guys that have Levitate, that aren't on the ground and shouldn't really be affected by ground moves, are still affected by ground moves. And personally, I feel that's wrong because it's so much a part of the metagame to know that certain Pokemon that would be weak to ground just aren't. But those abilities don't exist, and there you have it. Yeah, the lack of abilities is one thing I was a little disappointed in with Pokemon Go. Definitely did Shedinja dirty, now that they finally have him introduced in the game. But I suppose just giving him 10 hit points and calling it good is another way to go about that. I'm not even really commenting on this fight, because, you know, it's Dark Pulse, try to make him flinch, try not to get poisoned. Oh, well there you go. And Agatha's done beat. Oh no, never mind. Golbat. One more. Now there's a poison type I can't dig. I am glad that they did return the ineffective, not very effective, super effective back to full percentages rather than the diminished ones that Pokemon Go had. Because a not very effective hit is normally half damage, and in Pokemon Go it's like a 73 or 78% effectiveness, and things that were completely immune, like ground on flying or poison on steel, those things were 50% damage rather than 0. They did return that back to what it was for the original games, for the Let's Go games. Agatha / Professor Oak and Drag. Oh, you're something special, child. Well, yeah, you helped me get started. You're not fooling anybody. We get it. Alright, so second verse, same as the first, or third verse? Whatever. Healing up the PP, healing up the HP, getting ready for Lance. Lance threw some curveballs, because I knew dragons weren't going to be easy. But the original Lance was an Aerodactyl, a couple of Dragonairs, and a Dragonite, and a Gyarados. This Lance opened with a Seadra. I haven't taken the time to Google it if he opened with a Seadra in the past. But I did not remember that, and Seadra is not ice. Seadra is not dragon. Seadra is water. And so, opening against somebody that I already knew I wasn't going to have any solid, super effective type matchups on, with a water type that was going to Hydro Pump me, just kind of sucked. So always got to try that Confuse Ray, especially with Hydro Pump, because Hydro Pump's already got a diminished chance of hitting, so it's something, but that's not how Lance plays. Lance is just gonna blast water at my little tiny fire puppy. Snapped out of his confusion, so he's not confused, not flinched, and didn't miss. Honestly, at this point, the odds are against that Seadra even getting a Hydro Pump on me. But whatever, he hit me a couple times. And I leveled up for it. 5391 CP. Aerodactyl. Okay, well Dig's not gonna work. Fire's not gonna work. Guess we're gonna go for the flinch. Also, Aerodactyl's got a pretty solid attack stat, so try for the Confuse Ray. Because I think Confusion is still based on your physical attack stat. Rock Slide. Okay, well that's not uncomfortable at all. think at this point I couldn't remember if rock was resistant or not. I tried for a burn. It's not very effective. I said, scratch that. We'll just go with the Dark Pulse. Burn also has the added effect of lowering physical attack 1 level. So it would have been good for me had I done that. And I decided to drop the Aerodactyl and then heal, rather than heal and drop the Aerodactyl. Because Rock Slide sucks and he's just a physical beater. Which of course walks me into Gyarados, which is probably the worst type match. Well, I suppose Poliwrath was probably the actual worst type match. But Gyarados, having ineffective digs, not effective fire, I could still pull the Dark Pulses on him, but taking those waterfalls, I mean, had I gone through the Elite Four normally with an actual team, Gyarados is my water type for my team. Because let's be honest, Blastoise is overrated, Charizard is significantly cooler, and you need a water type on your team. And what's the first water type you can get if you're not taking Squirtle from the get-go? You buy that Magikarp for 500 Pokédollars up by Mount Moon, and then you struggle bus with him until he hits level 20, and then the game gets good. That's literally how I play Pokemon. Every time they've come out, you know, Fire Red, Leaf Green, with the Let's Go games, when they came back out, re-released on the 3DS, every time I did a playthrough of a Gen 1 game, Gyarados is my water type. He is the Magikarp that I bought right before Mount Moon, and he was in my party from the moment I got him. That's just how you do. He's the man, or woman, depending on gender when you get it, but it's where it's at. Like, Gyarados is just there. Actually, for funsies, I was looking for something else to put on him. I think my current Gyarados in this game has Thunderbolt, which, you know, is all sorts of sacrilegious because his special attack stat is just garbage. But, oh, hey, I've been rambling. So, Gyarados got beat. And we're on to Charizard, which I thought was a weird mix because Charizard was not in any of Lance's original teams. Again, bad type matchup, had to just run the Dark Pulses, and I had to go through another full restore. And he's using Hyper Beam. So, that's also weird. I suppose he didn't probably have very many good type matchups, and he's just going for hit as hard as he can. But, so, run the Confusion, run the Flinch. I think he gets one more Hyper Beam on me, which actually, for being as strong as it is from a special attacker like Charizard, wasn't that painful. Which actually made this fight kind of decent. I hesitated there for a minute because he's almost dead, and I thought about using a flamethrower because I'm gonna need those Dark Pulses for Dragonite. Because dragons are resistant to fire, so even though flamethrower is my big bad stab, it's not really the way to go. Pseudo-legendaries, being typically physical attackers, had to try the Confusion on him. And of course, the irony is Dragonite uses Outrage, which if Outrage goes to completion, would confuse him. So, my use of Confuse Ray has potentially offset Outrage's automatic confusion. Because if he's confused when Outrage ends, he's not going to re-up Confusion for additional turns. So he could Outrage through the Confusion, have his outrage end and then end his confusion, and I wouldn't have post-outrage confusion. And that's like the most times I've used the word confusion in like one sentence, and hopefully it wasn't confusing. But again, going with the Dark Pulses because they're normally effective and have that flinch potential, which I believe worked at least once. And he's done. And that's a Dragonite down. You beat Elite Four Lance. That's it. But you are a first-class Pokemon trainer with 1 Vulpix. Or you would have been, but there's one more challenger left. There's one more trainer to face. That trainer is... Oh hey, Professor Oak got changed. Hello there, Mayleaf. What's with that look of surprise? Your timing is perfect. The one you will face is... Professor Oak. Wah wah. Not really. It's Augie. So in coming up with names for my characters in this run-through, I decided to use names from some of my D&D characters I'd made in the past. And Mayleaf was originally Mayleaf Lyrodon, which was a druid that I had rolled up in D&D 3.5. There's a format of druid build that you can do where they refer to them as a Pokemon trainer. Druids can convert any spell they have prepared into a Summon Nature's Ally spell. And so the whole goal of that character is you stack them up with heal spells and then convert them over to summoning out animals as the battle needs. So you just swarm the field with animals from nowhere. And I thought it was a humorous concept and I went with it, so I gave the druid character a name that consisted of the female protagonist names from the first 4 generations of Pokemon. May being 3rd, Leaf being 1st, Lyra being 2nd, and Dawn being 4th. But it kind of worked together in that kind of old-timey fantasy-esque setting for a name. So, and Augie was one of my other characters, who's just kind of a total jerk to everyone. And so I thought, haha, rival, we'll give him a jerk name. Oh, and then there's my rival. So, again, this was my second playthrough of it, so I kind of knew what to expect, but I was a little surprised the way this opened on my first playthrough, because of course I had known that we had gotten the ability to Mega Evolve, and for this challenge I actually took the Charizard out of my team for the Vulpix. So I myself had not experimented at all with Mega Evolution yet. And I see the Pidgeot come out, and I'm like, well, yep, that's a pretty stable start. And then he Mega Evolved. I was like, oh, well, hell, let's do that. Which, I don't remember right off the top of my head what Pidgeot's, Mega Pidgeot, his ability was. I feel like it was some sort of a speed increasing, make everything priority moves or something like that. I feel like that would have been really good for him here. And he just didn't have it. And being a normal flying, didn't have any resistance to fire, and just started tearing him up. Would have finished him in another flamethrower, except that for some reason he opens with the Mega Evolution and then withdraws it. And just in case he didn't, I did a flamethrower. So I flamethrower into a Slowbro, because I'm pro, apparently. Still does a critical hit, so Slowbro didn't really get a fair shake there. And then we Dark Pulse him, and he survives, because he's a jerk. And sets up a light screen, which means that all my flamethrowers and dark pulses are now weaker. And then he used a full restore. I was gonna spend a flamethrower to finish him off because he had nothing left for health. But essentially what this is doing is it's giving me an opportunity to burn through those turns of light screen, because on other Pokemon that I could just take out easy, that light screen is just gonna hurt. He's gonna surf me, and that hurts a lot. It was a critical hit. I think I panicked a little bit here, because if that surf had gone down like that again, I'd be in some real trouble. It looks like Dark Pulse might finish him. Yes. Okay. And that took a few extra turns, which means... well, I leveled up. High five. $54.84 CP. The light screen wore off. Now I'm on to Raichu. Now, the first time that I took on this Raichu, I did a Confuse Ray to open, and he paralyzed me. And then I couldn't dig because I kept getting paralyzed, and he kept hitting me with thunder. And I ended up trying to full restore out of a couple of times being paralyzed, and then finally got a dig off and did him in one. So I decided to skip the struggling and just go straight for the dig, and it was very effective. Now I'm kind of low on health. That Vileplume knows Sludge Bomb, and there's a high probability of getting poisoned. And so I hesitated and decided, rather than trying to flamethrower him in one, which I believe did not work the first time I tried it on him, my first run through. That was the closest to failing I came in my original run. He had hit me with a Sludge Bomb and poisoned me, and after taking poison damage I was down to 20 hit points while poisoned. And I decided, you know, I'll take the risk of getting poisoned and re-up my health here because it's worth it. Actually, the first time it was a much cooler result. I flamethrowed him, he had that much health left, and he was burned. And then he Sludge Bombed and poisoned me. So I ended that fight with 20 hit points, poisoned, and Vileplume killed itself with burn damage. So it went right into the next Pokemon. I didn't have time to prepare or anything like that. Had to just take whatever he was going to do next and go into it with a full restore. This time worked out a lot better. Oh yeah, and it was Marowak, which is also a terrible type matchup for Vulpix because Bone Meringue hurts. And this Marowak is the luckiest Marowak in history because it just keeps getting those Bone Meringues off on me, if I remember correctly. And it's fortunate that it only hits 2 times, because most of those moves have some sort of small chance of hitting 2 to 5 times. And if that had hit 5 times, he'd probably just wipe me out. Oh, Marowak used Bone Meringue again. That's fine. I don't need health. Oh. Okay, I did get a freebie. And Reflect wore off, even though I'm not doing physical attacks. Marowak fainted. Oh no. Rapidash. There's a Pokemon I can dig. Rapidash has got some good physicals. We'll try for a Confusion. Rapidash, in this scenario, does a lot of Flare Blitzes just because it's strong. It doesn't do hardly anything to me, but he is recoiling on himself, so that's not nothing. And he uses quick attack, like a butt. And quick attack being a priority move makes some of these weird timing. Because, like, if he'd have done a flare blitz instead of a quick attack, he would have attacked after me and actually hit me that turn. So, AI isn't necessarily the best. Oh, and then he full restore, because you're a jerk. And a critical hit Dark Pulse takes more than half your health. So, Rapidash is going to use Quick Attack. I'm going to take another one. It's only 40 power though, it's not that strong. It's more of a finisher than it is something that should just be used periodically like that, but it's also not an attack that I'm resistant to, so I'm assuming it's probably what it thought was best for the scenario. And ends back with Mega Pidgeot. Or Pidgeot, however you want to pronounce it. Again, with the whole, it's a red word rather than a pronounced thing. I just always said Pidgeot. Pidgey, Pidgeotto, Pidgeot. But it's probably Pidgeot if it's Pidgeotto. But either way. That's right, Augie, you'll admit it. I'm the strongest trainer in the world. Because I showed you one Vulpix and what it can do. So, there you go. That is a single Vulpix wiping out the Elite Four and Champion first time through the game. Done it at last. Actually, the funny part is they go through the whole conversation about how they're going to establish the champion of this as the set champion for the region, and yet you immediately just go off and continue to do whatever you want. So I feel like there should have been some sort of line here about, hey, rival, why don't you hang out here and be bored forever challenging people that want to take on the Pokemon League? But... and then this is like super anticlimactic because, you know, you put your team in and submit them, and you have this awesome scene where it shows all your Pokemon that you use to get through the Elite Four and how great it is. It's boop 1. Yeah, melee for the Eevee on her head. Congratulations, champion. Vulpix. And that's it. Congratulations, champion. So that is the run that I did that is my official end to Let's Go Eevee. And there you have it. Entire Elite Four and Champion beaten with a single Vulpix, albeit that Vulpix using items, being 100% IVs, and fully maxed out with Vulpix Candy. We'll do a fade to black here and skip the credits and come back in. And just a little after credits scene here. Eevee decides to finally get those flowers from before. Another thing that I had not done a lot of research into the end game things that happen after beating the Elite Four, so I was pleasantly surprised to discover how the Master Trainer piece works regarding challenging trainers that work specifically with the one type, one species of Pokemon. And I was disconnected and done with the recording at the time that I did it, but the very first thing I did once I discovered that's how that worked was I hunted down the Vulpix Master and just tore him a new one. Had like a level 70 or 80 Vulpix. Vulpix seems very pleased, and that's a good way to end.